Okay.
All right, well, we'll move on to Jenny. When we moved to Hawaii in 1975, Jenny,
76.
76, sorry, in 1976, Jenny was born in 73, so she would have been not quite 3 years old because she was in October and we moved in July. But I remember how Jenny was just always singing and always smiling and always kind of laughing. That just seemed to be her, kind of her nature. She was just, and I remember the swimming pool we had there. How Jenny just took to the pool like a fish, literally, and she learned to swim like a dolphin. She didn't put her kick her hands and feet. She just would put her hands in front of her and go down and up and down. And it was amazing. None of the other kids did, but she did. She just did it just like almost instantaneously. I mean, it wasn't quite instantaneously, but she just didn't seem to be afraid at all of the pool. And it was during this time that we went on a trip. No, it was actually earlier, when she was still a baby. I think it was when she was still, because you were still nursing her.
That's why she went with us.
Yeah, we went with Sister Cap is the one that kind of carried her all the time. But it was again a whole retinue of Sunday school and Relief Society and Young Women's and primary people, leaders. And we went to several places in the South Pacific. And I just remember of Sister Cap in Tahiti, of Jean kind of saying, I need to nurse her. And just kind of kiddingly said, oh, she's mine now.
She loved taking care of Jenny, and it's always kept that connection with her through the years. Even before that, when you were doing all that traveling, and we had Peggy Hill living with us at the time to help out, it was kind of a routine. That was back in the days when we went to church, Sunday school in the morning, Christian Sunday school, and then go home and come back in the afternoon and have the sacrament meeting. And that usually hit during the nap time for the little kids. But Peggy was so cute. I remember going in the nursery there, and Jenny would be asleep in the crib, and Peggy would gently touch her and wake her up, and she'd say, okay, Jenny Marie, you're a Mormon baby. It's time to get up and go to sacrament meeting. And that just got in, I think, into Jenny's psyche, because she learned to love meetings. Then later, when we were in Hawaii, one of the fun times, we were on a Sunday, January 15th, 1978. A couple of cute notes here in the book. The girls were getting ready for church and helping one another fix their hair and so forth. And I heard the conversation going on as one of the big sisters was trying to get the tangles out of Jenny's long blonde curly hair that they had just helped shampoo. And Jane said, boy, I wish I had Jenny's hair, because they girls always had fun combing and fixing her hair. After thoughtful consideration, little Jenny replied, you can't, it's glued on. Then later that day, coming home from church with a car full of little ones who had had a little trouble staying still for the long meeting because it had been ward conference. And Vicky was just 2.5 at the time, and she recognized by just looking out the car window that as we turned onto Elapayo Street that we were getting close to home. And she said, oh, we're nearly home. Will Daddy be there? And the older kids chimed in, oh, no, he's on a trip, remember? And her reply came, "Oh, Daddy's at home on a trip." And then that next, it was a couple of weeks later, I guess, back on Jenny's liking meetings, I took Jenny with me to pick the kids up at school one afternoon, and we were on our way going along towards the school, and Jenny said, "Oh, I wish the days went like this. Relief Society primary, Relief Society primary." And I said, "What about Sunday?" "Oh, yes," she said, "it should go Relief Society primary, Sunday school, Relief Society primary, Sunday school, Saturday." She had it all figured out, so she loved meetings, and of course that was when we did have Relief Society and primary on a weekday. So she always looked forward to what the meeting would be that day. I always enjoyed participating, so I think Peggy's indoctrinating her that she's a Mormon baby kind of helped that take place. She calendared her days by the church meetings that she could go to.
You can probably tell it better than I can, but I do remember of Jenny always combing her hair and even in front of the mirror and looking at the hair and says, "Oh, I have such pretty hair." I don't think she was vain. I think it was that all the people around her told her,
Everyone
"Oh,
was
you
saying,
have
yeah.
such beautiful hair." And I do remember of that, or going like that. So I do have pretty hair. I have here that Jenny broke her arm.
That was
Gail did.
It was, I know
No.
Gail did.
Jenny broke
Jen-
her arm back when we were living in Bountiful.
Oh, that was
later.
back here.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that was on the.
That was at school grounds.
School, the
Yeah.
tricky bars or something like that too. Okay.
Let's see. Vicki, we're kind of overlapping here, but Vicki was, this again, April of '78. Vicki would come up with her own version of words sometimes as she was expanding her vocabulary. She wanted, for lunch one day, she wanted some stoop. And I figured out that's a combination of soup and stew. And often she would say, as getting dressed, it's outside down if her clothes were turned inside out. At supper one day, we were having V8 juice, which she loves, and she asked, "Give me a lot 8-apricot juice." I think now she would have wondered why in the world she would have gotten V8 mixed up with apricot, because she doesn't like apricots. And she called pineapple apple pie. And when someone is in her way, she very kindly would say, "'Scuse me." Since having baby Emily around, she became more aware, as we would talk about, not letting people that had a cold or something get too close to the baby, because they might get their germs on her. And the other day, someone wanted to eat something of Vicky's, and she fended them off with a terrible threat. "You better not. It has my worms on it." Then Jenny, who was 4 at the time, had been conscious of all the talk about germs, because we had received word that Grandpa Sabin was sick and in the hospital, and the doctors were having a hard time giving all different tests and trying to figure out what was his problem. They just couldn't identify the source of his troubles, and Jenny was listening in as we were talking about that, and she said, "You know, I think Grandpa must have got a germ." So she was quite conscious of that conversation. And then she thought very deeply, and she had a real worried look on her face, and she said, "Mama, what is it like to be in a germ?"